What's up, guys? We're back. A little bit of music, a little bit of mood. John Zannis, Taylor Kyles, Mike Kadlick. Some visitors coming in later. We're going to preview day 2 of the NFL draft. And guys, this is where it gets really interesting for the Patriots. I think day 1 very much was about not screwing it up, as we talked about, right? Mm-hmm. That was it. So don't screw it up. Take the quarterback. Don't overthink it. And then you hope for the best. And we'll talk about Drake May's expectations. Mike, you're muted there. Go ahead.
Hi. He muted us automatically, to be fair. We didn't do that.
No, I was going to say, I just yelled at Taylor before we came on that he was muted. But yeah, you aced the test. Day 1, slam dunk. That's all I was saying. That you got it right. Now it really starts on day 2.
Yeah. So, and it gets interesting because here is where, I'm not going to say you can screw it up, but here's where there's a wide range of possibilities, a very wide range, both in terms of the types of players you can take, positional need, which players maneuvering around that draft board, trying to get more draft capital, moving back when you think you can get another player later, moving up. And this is kind of its own art, right? They're scouting the players, and then there's working the draft board. Or, as some teams do, you stay and you pick and you eat your steak and potatoes and you go home and that's it. And you just play it straight. But the Patriots have alluded to wanting to kind of jump around the board a little bit. And it'd be interesting if they do. When you're as high as they are here, there's a lot of teams that probably had guys, and the Patriots have the second pick in the second round, 2 day 2 picks overall, but the second pick in the second round, first pick is great in the second round because everyone's coming at you. And Buffalo's already shown a desire to trade down. They're in a prime position. Patriots were in that. I remember once they ended up taking Razai Dowling instead of trading, which was insane, but insane on 100,000 different levels. But in this case, there's probably guys there today that are like, we're 15th on people's boards that they can't believe are still there, right? And some teams might just come get those guys. I didn't get my first round pick, or I didn't get the guy I wanted, but holy crap, that guy's still there. And so that's possible. And you can see that happening. There's a lot of fun, creative possibilities and different things that they could do. We'll get into all of that stuff first. But today was, as declared in New England, Drake May Day. Okay. Drake May was introduced to the New England media. There he is. Look at that guy. Dressed to the prom. I know.
It's happy to be there.
Blue tie, 2 days in a row.
Yeah. Introduced Drake May to Foxborough, to the Foxborough media. Mike was there. Taylor was there. You guys got to see him up close and personal, talk to him, early just impressions again, because so much of what's been talked about is we understand the arm talent, the physical tools, a lot of the things that give him a high ceiling based on what he can do physically. But what were your impressions? So much is made about makeup. What were your impressions of him, just seeing how he handled everything and how he was today? And again, it's only so much we can glean from that, but still, what were your impressions there?
I thought it was impressive to see how mature he is for a 21-year-old. And that can, what does that mean? I mean, the emphasis that he was putting on his family, like he had them all come up on stage, and like his girlfriend from 7th grade introduced everybody, gave a little background, and really emphasized that, because that seems like the culture that New England's trying to build, where we've seen it with all the championship teams. Like, all those guys are really close-knit. And I think, he's going to learn from Jacoby Brissett, and he's going to continue to learn how to be an effective leader. But I think he already understands really principally where he's got to be in terms of his headspace. And we can't really evaluate what he's going to do on the field. We only know what's on the college film. Like, that time's going to come. All we really have is the intangibles and, what we get from his personality. But I mean, the guy's got charisma. He's got a little like country swagger to him, I'll say. He's funny. He seems like he doesn't take himself too seriously. So, I mean, I think he was pretty entertaining to watch up there. He seems like he could talk for days. So I'm sure we'll get along.
He was so excited. That was my takeaway. He just looked like he was, having fun and like truly excited to be a Patriot. And take that for what you will, right? Because everybody's going to be excited for the number 3 pick. Drake May would have been excited if he went to Chicago, Washington, Minnesota.
That's not true, Mike. He loves us the most. Nope.
Well,
that's not true.
That's the thing.
True.
it's like, okay,
Not
it's
true.
great.
He likes
It's
you
great that he
guys.
sits there and sounds super happy. He loves being a Patriot and, blah, blah, blah. But like, it does feel genuine. And
Yeah.
again, unless you're, apparently Jack Jones tweeted that he doesn't think Jaden Daniels is actually excited to be a Commander. So like, take that for what it's worth. And
They
they're friends.
together at Arizona State.
Yeah. So they know each other. So that's interesting.
Ooh.
When Jaden Daniels walked across the stage, Jack Jones tweeted, "I know he's happy. He isn't happy. I've seen that look before." So like in that scenario, Jaden Daniels isn't happy to be in Washington. In this scenario, Drake May is excited to be a Patriot. So no, super cool. Like you said, Taylor, mature, just thrilled. And there is that like the drawl, the swagger,
there's a little Gronkowski vibe though going on there, right?
Yeah,
with him and his big meathead brothers. There's something going on there. They're like the refined Gronkowski, slightly more so, which you don't mind in your blockhead, tight end, but in a quarterback, maybe a tad more sophistication. But there's a little vibe going on there with those guys. It's pretty funny.
You can also feel how
they're from Buffalo and they're from down south, so it's just the Gronks from South Carolina.
And you can tell how competitive that family is. Like, really, in the way that they talk to each other, like, you can just feel like they're always kind of poking and prodding and just kind of like one-up each other in a way where, like, it's all love. Which, again, in a locker room setting is cool to have because, like, what do people say about Tom Brady all the time? Obviously, we're not making direct comparisons. People always say Tom Brady makes everything a competition where it's like the beer, like he chugs a beer faster than anybody and all that stuff where it's like you don't realize how competitive he is until you're with him and everything he does, he's trying to win. And it feels like that was the environment he was raised in because, like, his mom, his dad, all his brothers were like freak athletes. So that's another cool thing to see. It's like in this young guy who's kind of helping reset the culture, he's got that kind of thing where he's always going to try to make himself better and kind of, improve, which, again, I just think is encouraging.
And you can tell he's probably like, I'd say there's, those guys probably all hang out together and within 5 minutes a wrestling match breaks out.
Yeah.
Like Drake May's probably taken like 1,000 noogies in his life. Anyway, here's Taylor Kyles, intrepid reporter Taylor Kyles, asking Drake May how awesome he's going to be. Actually, I don't know what the question was, but I'm going to put it up there anyway.
After you were picked, did he get to share any words of wisdom about what it's like to play in New England and be a Patriot?
Yeah, Cam Newton did. First thing he says about the fans, what a great city, it's a great sports town, great sports area here in New England. You got the Celtics, right over there, and the Red Sox and the Bruins. So it's just a great, sports city. It was the first thing he said, and he said just, be yourself, enjoy it, embrace it. Cam Newton was going up in Charlotte. He was, my MVP. I think I said that last night. Just a great player. Had a short stint here where he's making plays, so it was fun to see him do that. But just glad I got to, meet one of my idols growing up and share and ask some questions about New England.
So there you have it.
He looked starstruck yesterday when he was doing that interview with Cam after he got picked. It was like he almost didn't want to make eye contact. It was really funny to watch.
Yeah. So that was that with Drake May. He was there today. We're bringing in Mike Giardi because why not?
Mike G. Right? Let's go. Well, yeah.
We're bringing in Mike Giardi from Boston Sports Journal, formerly NFL Network, NBC Sports Boston, and an all-around pretty okay guy. He's all right. He's a little overrated, but
yeah, slightly.
Slightly overrated, but we like him. And we're here to talk with your kind of Drake May thoughts in here. Now, you weren't on the show with us yesterday, but I know you've written a ton about this guy and these guys, and you've scouted and you've looked at it. Where was May in the hierarchy of things here? Is he the guy you think they should have taken where they were? They had to take, would you rather have moved around, maybe drop down and get more value, or stay and May and make the pick and go?
Yeah, I was May. I've been May for a long time. I just think that the traits that he possesses, and it's interesting because when you look at his tape this year, obviously we've talked about it a million times. It was a little bit uneven. They changed in coordinator, lost 181 targets last year. There was all kinds of different things happening there. But you can still go through and see him make every throw and every play that you want a highly drafted quarterback to make. And, no disrespect to the guy that was here prior that just got traded to Jacksonville about a month ago. He couldn't do those sorts of things. He couldn't make those sorts of throws. He didn't have the physical talent that Drake does. So to me, in talking to people across the league, and I know I've written this a couple times in the last few weeks, one of the things about the footwork we hear, right? Like the footwork's a mess, and Belichick's talking about it last night. And, I had someone tell me, like, if you can't fix that as a coach, his issues, then you shouldn't be coaching. Like, it's not so far gone and that he can't find his way back. And again, this is why having someone like Brissett there gives you that cushion. And even Bailey Zappi, if he remains on the roster, someone who started games, like, you don't have to throw him to the wolves just to throw him to the wolves. Now, if you find out that's the way he learns best, then yeah, you go that route. But to this point, like, just take it slow with him, get that stuff corrected. I think the other thing is, that sort of stood out to me was the idea, like, is talking to people that know him well and a bit in the program, like, he's not going to bust. You might bust him, but he's not going to bust for you. Like, he's going to put in the work. His teammates love him. There's all this, his ability to sort of to gather that group together. And even today, sort of writing about it and talking to people about it, was like, and Elliot mentioned it last night, the idea, like, there was opportunities to throw people under the bus. He could have thrown the coordinator under the bus the way the system was, didn't necessarily perfectly fit the elements that they had, the talent that he had or didn't have, as it were. Guys running wrong routes all the time. I mean, I know Taylor, like, busting butt watching the tape. Like, there's so many times you're like, there's no way that guy's supposed to be at 6. He should be at 4. There's no way he should be at 12. He's at 10. Like, there's just so many things that happened during the course of it that if you sort of understand what you're watching, you're like, a lot of this stuff sort of makes sense because what was around him wasn't happening. So I just think there's too many traits there at 3 to just say, you know what, let's trade back. Let's get JJ. Like, and I'll give JJ McCarthy credit. Like, as I started hearing about him at the Senior Bowl more and more, I started looking into him more and more. And I still think he's a late first, early second sort of draft pick. But as we know, quarterbacks get overdrafted. Bo Nix being a prime example last night. Michael Penix going 8 being a prime example last night. So, like,
31-year-old starting quarterback.
I mean, it's insane that
He's like a fine wine.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, to me, I just think he brings all the traits that you want there, and now it's up to you as the owner, the Crafts, Elliot Wolf, and the front office, and Gerard Mayo and his coaching staff. Like, get this is your job now. Get this kid right. You get this kid right, you have the potential to have a top 10 quarterback for the next 10 years.
No doubt. One thing that's funny is we talk about when you say no disrespect to Mac Jones, how much longer are we going to say no disrespect and then proceed to disrespect Mac Jones? Let's just move. We're all grown up.
Just assume there's that asterisk every time you say something about Mac Jones.
Because I think, you know what?
He's not right behind you.
I know, but I didn't mind the kid, and I still don't know. Like, from a physical standpoint, he was probably never going to get you past the 15th or 16th best quarterback in the league. But obviously what they did to him and the relationship with Bill, like, it just, like,
you just mentioned
now he's hot garbage, and I don't think he's hot garbage, but that's what it was for the last, year and a half, 2 years. So I don't want to throw more, dirt on the poor guy.
Well, you just mentioned the kid not bust, or with Drake May, he's not going to bust. You can only bust him. The Patriots busted him. The Patriots did that to him. Like, that's what you're talking about there. It's the same thing.
Mike, I was writing about this last night, and just like, there are people in the building that they know what happened last year. They understand in the last 2 years and how it went wrong. And it's incumbent upon those guys in particular to make sure this doesn't happen again. Because that was the 15th pick in the draft. This is the 3rd pick in the draft. And that was 2 years after you were good. Now this is 4 years after you've been good. Like, you're getting further and further removed. Like Drake talked about, like, the winning organization. They know how to win here. Well, not recently. They don't. You're not talking about the same. Tom Brady's not here anymore. Bill Belichick's not here anymore. The good Bill Belichick. So you have to carve your own path now. And this is for all of them. This is for Wolf. This is for Mayo. This is for May. And that's for ownership. Like, you got to get it right, because you haven't got it right really pretty much for the last 4 years.
Exactly. So May, as we said at the beginning of the show, Mike kind of prefaced it by saying, like, look, yesterday, while it's exciting and you're waiting for it to happen and the suspense of what are they going to do at 3, and I guess there were some possibilities, but it always seemed like this is where it was headed. They were going to take Drake May, and really it was more, as we said, more a matter of not screwing it up. Like, do the thing you're supposed to do. Right. Take the guy. Don't overthink it. Don't get cute. Don't move. Don't try the value thing. Just do it and go. But today is where things get like super interesting because you can do a zillion different things here. And the Patriots, again, they don't have multiple picks in multiple rounds where they can get super creative. So they have to decide what matters most to them. Do you like being where you are, which is pretty cool, up high, in the top of each round? That gives you a nice position and a nice seat to get potentially players that maybe should have gone around earlier who fell through the cracks for one reason or another. Always a good spot. It's also a good spot where teams to come at you to trade because they might have taken a round off. They didn't have a first round pick. They had a first round grade on a guy and they can't believe he's still there at 34 and they want to come there. And Buffalo's been fielding a zillion calls for that sort of thing. But here is where you're really going to start to shape things. You knew you were taking quarterback. You still have needs at two premium, hard to fill positions at wide receiver and tackle. And so this is kind of where it gets interesting. So let's kind of whip around here to some people's big boards. And guys, give us through some of the names here. There's going to be a lot of overlap with a lot of these names. But let's throw up Mike's here. Mike, some of your guys that you like here at 34.
Well, what's funny is my favorite player.
No, I'm sorry. I got Kadlick's up first.
That's
You're
right.
coming up next, Giardi.
We're both Mikes, so that's
We're
good.
both
Go,
Mikes.
Kadlick, go.
Mike K. Come on.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, you're good. AD Mitchell is the obvious one here, number one. Probably a first-round talent. Could be dropping with some potential medical issues and things like that. But, I think if you can land him at 34, it's a slam dunk. If you can trade back and land him, it's even more of a slam dunk. Then you got to look at tackle Patrick Paul, who, Taylor, we talked about it. Paul was he believed he had interest in the first round as well. He falls to round 2. And then same with two guys in Ladd McConkey and Cooper DeJean, who even on the graphic here, it says wide receiver DeJean, cornerback, obviously, but
he's a cornerback.
No, it's all good too. First round talents there.
Blame Zannis.
And then Keon Coleman, as well. True X receiver that the Patriots really need. Mitchell and Coleman are the real true X's here. McConkey's sort of a not a gadget player in a negative connotation, but you can kind of move him around the formation. So as you see on here, the focus here has to be weapon, has to be playmaker for the Patriots one way or another. I don't know if we want to start here or keep going with the big boards, but talking about the fact that they need a weapon, Mike Giardi, I know you posted something on Twitter earlier about the Patriots potentially having interest in a guy like Deebo Samuel. So, John, I don't know if you were going to tee that up for him later, but
yeah, we're going to get to the trade scenario because I think that's interesting. And I know Mike had some talk about potentially Buffalo being in position here, and a few different people who might be coming at those teams. I know the Patriots have been heavily involved in that, and I think that's the dream scenario. And a lot of people thought that when Pearsall got drafted by the 49ers, myself included, it was interesting. And again, San Francisco playing that game where they're going to pretend, no, what are you talking about? Like, we're keeping everybody because, it looks ridiculous to say we absolutely drafted this guy with the intent on trading somebody. But if you know you're not going to hold on to these players long term, it makes sense to try to get some return. And here's kind of where you do it. You head into next season, everything changes, and you're not really able to do that. You trade a player in season in their final year, and that compensation might be less than you're going to get today when teams are really filling their needs and trying to figure it out. So as Mike said, and sorry, I'm waiting here to see if we get Mike's graphic up in time, Giardi, on what he wants. In the meantime, I'll throw up Taylor Kyle's here. Here's what Taylor is looking to do for things here. So what do you got, Taylor?
Yeah, so Kingsley Suamataia, young guy, 21 years old, was still a captain at BYU. Crazy bloodlines. This is Penei Sewell's cousin. His grandfather was actually, I believe, drafted by the Patriots back in 1970. So really athletic family, really athletic profile. Although John Limarakis of New England Sports Journal, I talked to him today, he actually thinks that because of Suamataia's kind of average arm length, he might be more of a right tackle. So that kind of bumps up Patrick Paul for me, who's got great size, really long arms. He's got a big body, and he's more athletic for his size than you would expect. So if the Patriots do want a left tackle, I think maybe I'm prioritizing a trade back because I think there's so much value in guys that you can get. But if they can do that and still get Paul, I think that'd be great. Keon Coleman, I'm not sure if he has the speed to be a true X receiver on every down, but he is a guy that you can move around. He's a ball winner. I think he's a better route runner, much better route runner than he gets credit for. And he's not N'Keal Harry. He's like 10 pounds lighter and a much better athlete, I think. I know he gets those comps. I don't think they're fair. And he's an accuracy eraser, which I think
he kind of has that Puka Nacua game speed thing going on, where all of his metrics in terms of how he runs and his game speed is elite, but his straight line 40 hand in the dirt speed is not. So that's, I think, what's messing with people. To me, that's a guy, like, if some people are dumb enough to let that guy fall, that's someone who you might try to take, because I think that speed might keep him out of this little pack of players in the top of the second round, but we'll see. Anyway, continue on, Taylor.
Yeah, he's not fast, but he had the fastest speed in his group in the gauntlet drill, which is like you moving, doing football things, and still maintaining speed. A.D. Mitchell, another guy where if they trade back like a decent amount and he really does slip, and I don't know if they've done any background on him. I don't know, Mike, if you know anything about this. It seems like they were pretty not interested from what was reported. But if they're comfortable with, the health thing, there is some stuff about him off the field and his effort. Teammates pretty vehemently pushed back against that. So I'm not sure what's up there, but he's super talented, could be a great value. And Cooper DeJean, I know people are going to get mad about a defensive player, but his versatility, I know. It's just, I don't want this. I think it'd be a nightmare for Elliott Wolf to have to explain why he got a defensive player after being like, oh, we got to get more weapons and shore up the offensive line. Like, yeah, that'd be a nightmare. But this is a guy who can play every position in your secondary, and they do need help at multiple spots in that secondary, or at least depth. And he's got special teams value, and he's a really good player, and he's got ball skills and things like that. So if they were going to get a defender, I think he's the kind of guy where it would make you mad now. And yeah, you can make the joke, this is like my Marte Mapu thing, but I do think he brings a ton of value and could be a guy that people kind of fall in love with once things kind of click at the pro level.
Yeah, well, let me tell you what. Let me go ahead.
I was just going to say that the Mapu thing is like internally there are still people pissed off about the Mapu thing because
externally too, Mike.
Well, yes, but more importantly, internally, like we needed help offensively. Like whatever position was the best on. No, you went with sort of a luxury pick, and he may turn out to be a good player. Obviously, we sort of fell in love with him during the spring and summer when he had the red jersey on, and then things were a little fast for him when he got into the regular season, but there's certainly potential there. But that's a thing where I say if you pick Cooper DeJean, well, dude, you just said, as you mentioned, weaponize, and we don't have a left tackle, and we could probably use some more depth on the right side, and maybe you could use an interior guy. You definitely need an X, and so please don't whatever, but don't do it.
And
the lighthouse would come down if Cooper DeJean.
Yes, there'll be riots.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about what I think about trying to sneak a defensive player into the draft. Here's Zannis' top 5.
I like it.
Hey.
Best wide receiver available at 34. Trade down for more picks, sure. No defense, for the love of God. Seriously, Taylor, stop it.
You're killing me, dude. That's my favorite right there.
You're killing me, dude.
That's good.
Okay. You're killing me.
That is perfect.
This one? That doesn't sound like me at all. Doesn't sound like anything that's definitely documented on YouTube.
I wrote this before I knew. I wrote this before I even saw what Taylor said. I was like, I'm not doing this today. Okay.
Mike have a defender too?
I did also have Cooper DeJean. You can't skip him. He's a really good player.
If you're my track record, isn't it? You're Roger Goodell and me. It's like, oh, you got one strike, buddy. I'm laying the hammer down. All right, I get it.
Oh my God! It's again, and again, it's simply to hammer home the point from last year, which was why. And again, I'm not pretending I'm Taylor Kyles by any means here. Taylor actually watched these guys when he's getting excited, and Mike watches these. Both you guys, all of you guys watch these guys. You have reasons to like the player and the things that they do, but last year, drafting for defensive depth when you desperately needed, again, the same thing you need this year at positions that are really hard to acquire that talent unless you do it through the draft, and to brazenly ignore it again and again and again and just be like, I'm Bill Belichick, I'll just figure it out. We'll just patch it together. It just didn't work, and it can't now. And I think almost to the point now, what's funny is they might overcompensate, right? Which is like because of this, Cooper DeJean might have been like 5th on their board, and they'll be really reluctant to take him, right? I can't do it. I want this guy so bad. I can't do it.
You know, it's so crazy though, the Mapu thing. Like there are guys on the defensive side of things in that building that were like, we did what?
Yeah.
We took another defensive guy? Did you not see the offense? Like
Yeah.
when defensive guys are like, give me more, we're like, wait, I think we have too much. I don't know what you're doing here. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's
I did
demoralizing.
learn my
But I get
lesson,
it.
by the way. I will say I learned my lesson. I don't actually want them to take a defender. I just like Cooper DeJean. I understand positional value does matter. That's the scouting process. You make your mistakes, you learn to grow.
Let's throw up an actual one. Giardi's top targets also likes AD Mitchell, Franklin. We mentioned Keon Coleman.
All offense.
And you got to yeah,
Shocking.
a lot. Oh, well, look at this. How refreshing. All offense, Mikey.
Well, you know what's interesting? So I took Matt McConkey is my favorite player on the board. I just think where you are in your build and what you have at the wide receiver position, there's just too much duplicity there. And
Redundancy.
unless you think he's vastly superior to those guys, like you look at him and say he's Julian Edelman, Wes Welker, he's going to catch 100 balls in the system. Let's go, then fine. But otherwise, you've got Pop, you've got other guys. It just pretty much everybody plays in the slot. KJ, like, to make a lot of sense to me when Elliott's talking about, do we have someone in the 3x1 on the backside that can get open on his own and like do that? They don't have that guy. They haven't had that guy for a long time. I've been talking about it for a long time, getting yelled at by people. And you finally see, like, this past year, like, there's no one on the offense that dictates coverage like that. You know, they're doubling Pop because there's no one else to double. Like, how we can handle all these guys. You might as well cover this guy with 2 because he's the one they seem to want to go to. But that's why I look at the list and say Mitchell is, from an athletic standpoint, I know a lot of people felt like he's the 4th best receiver in the draft. Now there's the other stuff that comes with him. It's the medical stuff. There's the off-field stuff. And I say off-field, it's not like he's doing horrible things out there. It's an effort. It's an attitude thing. I've had some people push back on that. You know, like when I initially sort of wrote him up, and I mentioned like there's too much of the lack of effort for me on a lot of plays. And someone said, well, go back and watch again. Look at the offense. Look at where the design is headed. And if you look at a lot of it, it's when the ball is clearly going to go to the other side that he's not giving you that max effort. So I gave him a little bit of leeway there. And then I got pushed back from the other side who said, like, there's just too much of it, period. End of story. So you have to sort of figure the balance there, right?
And to add to your point there, like, yes, sometimes it's the backside. What stood out to me was there was a game where he was doing it as a blocker, where they're throwing a screen and he's the point man and he's throwing a shoulder and you're like, bro, there's no excusing. It's not like, oh, and sometimes you could even say, like, in his routes, he does do the slow play thing where he'll kind of just waddle up and then explode. And I think he mentioned in the combine that that's part of the strategy. So you can kind of get away with it. But for me, it's like, no, as a blocker, that's when it's like, yeah, no, it's put up or shut up time because your guy's about to get tackled in the backfield and blown up because you didn't do your job. And that's where it's kind of like, yeah, you can talk your way around it, but the effort stuff is definitely there.
Yeah, you have to be convinced that Taekwon Underwood and you're going to be able to get him right because again, the physical talent is it's up there. He would have been a lock 1st round pick if all the stuff sort of married out together, but it doesn't. So that's part of the thing you've got to weigh, right? Whether you believe that or not.
Let me ask you guys a question. If you remove whatever, and again, this is always where it's like, are they real flags or fake? You know, like, are these things actual concerns or stuff people throw out there and drum up, which are things you can get by? Or is it like, Jesus, how did we not see this? You draft a person and it's a total train wreck. It's hard to say. Let's remove any concern beyond what he does on the field and his physical tool set. Is anyone else in this range close?
Hmm.
Because this is clearly the sexiest pick, and I think it's the one. I think this is the one that's going to excite people the most if this is what they get, because it's, again, when you're rock bottom like the Patriots are and have been, it's ceiling that's exciting, right? Safe is not exciting, so I think people want to take big swings. Is anyone else another big swing type player here, close to the level of what AD Mitchell could be at the height of his powers?
It's kind of different, but for me, it's Javon Baker. because talent-wise, like if you just look at his highlights, he does some crazy stuff. Like he's a really kind of like AD, where his routes, like he'll do a double move where he beats the defender twice. Javon Baker's kind of like that, where he's really mobile. He's a fluid guy. He is explosive, and he makes some crazy catches where you think like if you put this all together and you do this on a down-to-down basis, you're going to be a problem. And it's why guys like the bootleg guys like EJ Snyder and Brett Coleman, they're like, he could be a second-round guy, but most people have him as a third or fourth because there's inconsistency. He has a very frustrating drops. He does have some issues where he'll oversell his routes, or he kind of gets moved off his spot against press. So that's kind of bumping him down. But he's a guy where I think if you do maximize him, people might say in the second round this is a reach. But then if he does excel, it's like, yeah, no one's going to care. It's the Patriots saw something that other people didn't, took a chance on a guy and got rewarded.
Well, there's where you get into trade down scenarios where if you think you can do that and you start to move around, if you have guys closely rated and ranked and you think you can do it, but you kind of feel that next tier wide receiver run is coming and it's going to be like 6 out of 8 picks. And then you might be left with nothing. So it is a little risky to move, right? If you see a guy you like,
risky, John, you mentioned it, but
you kind of got to strike. Yeah.
If you do grade those guys that close and like a guy like Javon Baker, I mean, I just feel like it's bad business to sit there and take him at 34 when you could, if you have him rated that close, trade down a couple spots, maybe get him there and still pick up the capital that Wolf mentioned several times now that they still want to try and get him.
Yeah. Like unless they love a guy, like really, or like we have to get him, trading down seems like the best move, especially because if they do want capital, this is the place to get it. This is where you're going to be able to load up or at least get picks that later on could be valuable and you can kind of multiply. When you get to the third, I feel like it gets a little more tricky and harder to get quality picks outside of like mid to late day 3. So yeah, I agree. Unless you have strong conviction about somebody, trading back is a move.
This is where we get into this is where, though, John, we get into the whole thing about like, and there was a big story in The Athletic, I think last week or maybe early this week about like the idea of like people are doing it wrong. It's more picks. Just the more picks you have, the better chance you have to hit. But I look at this team and how devoid they are of blue chip talent.
True.
And I say to myself, I would have preferred last night that they had gone up. And I would prefer they take 68 and look to move up. Target the guy you want and go get him. I don't give a damn about your 5th, 6th, 7th round picks. And I get it. You hit Pop Douglas last year, at least you think you did, right? So that's great, wonderful. But like I don't think they should be making a living trying to do that. I certainly don't think they should be making a living trying to do that right now with where the roster is at. Like, if you came away with this with 3 guys that you said, these guys are going to start for me, this guy May is going to be my quarterback for the next 10, 12 years, right? The tackle or the wide receiver I targeted at the back end of round 1 or early in round 2, that's going to be my guy for the next 10 years as well. Like, that's the thing I'm looking for. I don't care about your rotational defensive tackle in the 5th or 6th round. Like, they're not at that point where they need to worry about crap like that. They need to worry about, let's get the best talent we can get in here and not worry about volume as much.
And Mike, to your point, if they're embracing this like Packers style of drafting, the Packers annually have these massive undrafted free agent classes where they do the research. And if you're going to be, all right, we're going to draft and develop. Well, yeah. So you're going to have to really dig and find those hidden gems and get a bunch of guys in undrafted free agency to compete for those spots because you were aggressive and got the guys who really did want on your roster. So that's a good point. Go and get your guy. You don't need to have like the 3 5th round picks where it's like, oh, look at all these nice flyers. It's like, no, find the Tajon Palmer, the guy who's an athletic freak who probably isn't going to get drafted, but is going to contribute on special teams, at least be a good blocker who's good after the catch. And then if you develop him well, then you don't need that round, whoever, because this guy's
exactly. Exactly. Yep. It's like the Bruins' obsession with 4th line forwards. It's like one Jordan Addison is worth 12 Marte Mapus and Keon Whites. Like, it doesn't matter how many of those guys you get. If you get that one, it's like, great, I'm set at this position for potentially 10 years at a high level. You absolutely have to go get it. And just philosophically, right? Think of what you're saying when you trade down. When you trade down is, I don't love anything here. When you trade up, it's like, oh my God, I want that.
That's their guy. Right.
And so as a fan base, it's easier to get excited. You're going to be wrong. They've traded up and been wrong. Other teams do it all the time. But it at least means you put faith in them to make these decisions. If they see someone they want, don't worry about the cost. Go get them. We even talked about it at the quarterback position. How many first-round picks is it worth if you get your Josh Allen? All of them. They're the next 5 years. It doesn't matter if you're right, but if you're wrong, you lose your job. That's the game. That's how you put. That's how
well,
you
that's
do
like
it.
Brendan Bean
Don't
said.
worry
It
about
doesn't
job
matter.
security.
Yeah,
It's
right.
not about job
Yeah,
security.
if I whiff, it's over. I'm not going to be here.
It's over.
It's
over.
Those guys usually don't get multiple opportunities to make those sorts of decisions. So yeah, this is what you're doing. You're big game hunting.
Yeah. The two guys are about to fight in my chat. One guy saying tough guy, calling another guy tough guy. That's okay. Guys, everybody, come on. We can do this.
It's just love. It's love. It's the draft. It's love. It's not. It's not. Right look, it's just because Taylor and Mike put Cooper DeJean in their less the best of it. We don't need to fight about that. We can argue, but we don't need to fight.
Yeah. Started a riot.
Yeah.
Right.
Keep your hands to yourself, boys.
You guys don't want to see that. Anyway, we're going to get into some of the stuff we talked about, and we are now 14 minutes before the round starts. And Mike Giardi, if you have to dart because you got to watch it and get on the clock, just peace out. Say, hey, guys, I got to go. That's cool. It's free flowing in and out here. So, you don't have to wait for any particular moment. Just let us know when you got to bolt. Mike's obviously covering the draft for Boston Sports Journal.
I need the trade insight first. We need the Mike G
trade. That's the trade insight. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it in a minute. First off, we want to tell everybody at home, you want to get in on some action here. America's #1 DFS app. Go to Prize Picks. Download that app. Boop. Promo code CLNS. You deposit 100, you get 100% deposit match up to $100, and then just watch the winnings roll in. NBA playoff time right now. Great time to get in the action. It's ton of games every single night. You go in, you pick your favorite players or whatever players you don't like. You pick more or less. That's all you have to do on X amount of players. You can win up to 10 times your money. That's it. You pick a stat, more or less. That's all you have to do. Promo code CLNS when you download the app today. Now, we want to talk a little bit about the trade stuff, and I'll just kind of throw it out at you, Mike. In terms of intel, some reports out there right now say that Deebo Samuel's more likely to be traded than Brandon Ayuk. A recent report, Tommy Curran, NBC Boston, yesterday said the Pats definitely kind of sort of threw it out there that Ayuk is somebody they're interested in. It makes all the sense in the world, both in terms of the type of player and the Patriots need. And I think if you were able to do this for a 2, you probably take it and run and are happy as hell and pay him whatever he wants, even though right now we're talking the $30 million a year range based on the other contracts being thrown around right now. But what are you hearing here on whether this is real or not regarding either of these players?
Yeah, I mean, they've been sniffing around all these guys. I mean, I think they were sniffing around A.J. Brown as well before all of a sudden they dropped that surprising extension, at least surprising to us. They obviously were working on it for some time. The interesting thing here is, my intel is that San Francisco wants to retain Ayuk, and it makes all the sense in the world, right? He's 26, I believe. I think he's one of the 10 best receivers in the league. Meanwhile, you've got Deebo, who, yes, is under contract, so at least the cost certainty there, but he's 28, and he's constantly battling something, and he's a gamer. I mean, tremendous player, but, how many times have you watched the San Francisco game where, he's rolling, now he's hurt, and now he comes back, but then he's not the same guy. It happens a lot with him, and I just think, wear and tear, the physicality of the player. I mean, he's kind of a physical beast in that regard. So I think San Francisco definitely would push people towards the Deebo side of things. My understanding is that cost is still pretty high, what their ask is, which I think now you're starting to see reports saying, oh, yeah, there have been conversations, but it doesn't appear Buffalo or New England, the two teams that I reported were definitely interested, are willing to pay that price. And I get that, too, because when I look at Deebo, I say as much as he would become your best receiver and arguably your best offensive player, not even arguably, right? He is your best offensive player, that he's not exactly what they need. And I'm wondering if there makes any sense to give up any draft collateral at this point to put someone on your roster who's going to make you better, but to what end? Like, what's the actual end goal? Like, if you get Ayuk here, you can say you're rolling with Ayuk for the next 4 or 5 years, right? He and Drake, they're gonna, Drake's gonna grow with him. He's gonna know what Brandon Ayuk likes, and that's my number one guy. And when we need to play, that's where I'm going. You bring in Debo, he's not gonna be here forever. He's a bit of a different guy. You're lining him up in all different places. It doesn't answer the 3-by-1 question that Elliot posed that we've been talking about. So while Ayuk would be the perfect target, doesn't feel like Ayuk's going for anything less than a first. And now you're talking future first, right? Because you already used your first this year. So
which is dangerous because you expect and almost hope to be bad next year too, to be able to have more premium picks, particularly if you're taking a patient approach with Drake May and going to throw out a career backup in there without much skill around them at this moment in time. You're obviously going to add a little bit here in these next couple of rounds, but realistically, 5-6 win teams, 7-win team, you could be back in the top 10. You start throwing around those first round picks, and yeah, maybe you could be better than that. But I mean, you could potentially be a pick in top 3, 4, 5 again next year. That's not a pick you want to give away. So I don't think you can deal a future first if you're the Patriots.
No, my feeling about this all along when we talk about the veteran receivers, whether it's the two guys we just mentioned, whether it's T. Higgins, who obviously has asked for a trade again because there's been no conversations there, and Mike Brown is the most stubborn guy ever, so I don't know that T. Higgins is ever getting let free there. But to me, the best thing that could happen, or the best way this could shake down for the Patriots, the perfect scenario is you get through these first couple of days. Those guys don't move. And like we saw San Francisco add Ricky Pearsall, and then they come back and they regroup after the draft is over and say, you know what, we gotta move Ayuk. Mm-hmm. And if it's a 2, it's a 2. Like we gotta move Debo, and instead of asking for a 2, we'll take a 4 because we're just trying to move off the contract so then we can turn around and pay Ayuk. That's the sort of thing that I look at and say, you want to draft and develop, keep your picks here. Make your 3 picks, however you, again, and I'm a proponent of trying to move up, at least now with 68, but okay, keep that, do that. And then if you have to dip into next year's draft stash for one of those players, to me, that makes it a little bit more palatable that you're not giving up that this year. I can get him in, I can develop him right away. You're not doing that.
Yeah, no doubt, guys. How do you view this? And how interested are you? And what's the price?
I'd be 1,000% interested in Brandon Ayuk, and like you already said, that's why San Francisco wants to retain him. He's a top 10 quarterback, or top 10, wide receiver. You saw what he did with quarterback Brock Purdy last year, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, what have you. Imagine what he can do with a guy with a ceiling like Drake May. So anybody wants their hands on those guys, and that's why wide receivers turn out to be so valuable, and why you have to pay, that premium. Pay that premium for them, whether it be through an extension or, a first round pick, etc. So obviously there's interest. Debo, I don't think, if we're talking about pick number 34, I don't know if he's worth it. Mike mentioned the injury history, and I guess the fit in the offense too. He's not that X that they need. They have those supplemental guys. And Debo's more than a supplemental guy. He does more than just being a gadget player, but that's sort of his thing. That's where his bread and butter is being that do-it-all player in an offense. So if you told me I needed 30 to give 34 to San Francisco for Debo, I'd say no. Obviously, I'd do it for Ayuk, but it doesn't seem like it's on the table.
Yeah, I think you all hit the nail on the head. Brandon Ayuk, I wouldn't want to give up a future first. I think at that point, just like you said, you're going to have a high pick. Use that on right. Wide receiver one, a la what the Bengals did. If he could have been had for a second and changed, that would have been awesome. Doesn't seem realistic, but he does seem like that guy who one-on-one matchups, he can shred guys. He's great after the catch, can kill you at every level of the defense. Like the kind of guy that you do want. And the Kendrick Bourne connection would have been kind of cool. I'm also just, if the 49ers end up to trade him to the Commanders, I didn't really realize that would have meant that he would also be with Terry McLaurin, which would be insane. To let them play together when they're in your conference would have been madness. But then with Debo, yeah, he's a great football player, but I think as a wide receiver, he's more than a gadget guy because he can consistently win downfield. But with Ayuk, you see that one-on-one ability, like in the Super Bowl where he was getting open against man. Debo doesn't really do that. He's not quite as twitchy. He doesn't really have the same type of nuance in his routes to win that way. And then it's like, all right, you're basically rotating KB, KJ, Pop and Debo in kind of similar roles. It would just be a weird overlap. So yeah, I mean, you guys all already nailed it, but I'm not really that interested in Debo. Just because the playmaking, I was like maybe a third, and then I posted it and I was like, I don't. Now that I put it out there, I don't agree with what I said. I want to backtrack. I think maybe a fourth, just because he's such a great player, that'd be a great value, even if he does get banged up. Like that's a difference maker for you. But yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, the less I like it. To be totally
that's where I kind of, as I sort of worked it through my brain, I was like, okay, for a fourth, and even if it was a fourth and a future fourth or fifth on top of it, like, okay, like I put him in here. I know he's my best guy. Like he's healthy. He's going to be my best guy. But it's, again, to what end is it? Like what does he really do for you? Is he giving you that security blanket? Not necessarily. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I did? Wide receiver news, though, if we want to talk about it.
Well, you know what I did want Debo Samuel.
Yes, when he came out of South Carolina,
yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah,
you got a better eye than you give yourself credit for.
That's what I would have liked, Debo. There was a lot of good players there, and I think everyone in the room wanted to hand in a card for Debo at that time, except for one guy.
Yeah, everybody
it just turns
but
out
one.
that the one guy, everybody but one.
The one guy that was friends with Herm Edwards.
Like the comment he made about N'Keal Harry, where he like completely did a 180 on like when N'Keal was drafted. Herm was like, this is the perfect place for him. They're going to get the best out of him.
Yeah.
And then he was asked why N'Keal didn't succeed. And he's like, oh, the Patriots were a terrible spot. It's like, bro, you can stand up for your guy without just completely going against what you said before. That was wild. But, Herm's funny, so it's okay.
Yeah. That would have been good.
So we're on the clock in 3 minutes. Not the Patriots. The start of the.
There's one report out there. I'll put it out there right now.
Yeah.
Let me see what it was. Cameron Wolf told the Patriots tried to trade into the first round last night for a wide receiver, and it didn't happen.
Would have been X, I bet.
Yeah.
And I gotta say that if you really wanted it, the cost wasn't prohibitive. So I don't know.
That's what I mean. Is what does
it feels like this report is they wanted to go back up, but they wanted it in their own terms. And when it became a thing, they're like, nope, that's a little too rich for our blood. We'll just stay where we are.
Yeah. So that's it with picks 34 and 68. Sure. I guess try. I don't know how else you would try. I mean, I guess you take a swing and see if 34 gets you into the first round with a fourth round pick, perhaps. But probably not enough, to get into that first round. That's probably what the cost is. And then you just have to sit there and be like, we don't have anything on day 2. And I know that can be depressing because, again, this is like, there's like just this cornucopia of possibilities here with so many players. Right now, there's probably like, I mean, I know Bill Belichick was notorious for having a draft board that had like 8 guys on it, but, I don't know. Where is just take him.
So I got a hypothetical for the class real quick. So if you're weaponizing today, both of those picks are going to be on a receiver, tight end, whatever.
That's why I put that up there. If you wanted to trade up into the first round for a wide receiver, stands to reason you're laser focused on one right now at pick 34.
But then are you comfortable with tomorrow being when you address offensive tackle, like say Javon Foster, 4th round, Travis Glover in the 7th? They said they want to shore up the offensive line. That doesn't really sound like they want a starter. It sounds like they want, like Elliot Will said, depth and competition, because Chooks is probably your left tackle. And people aren't going to like it because I don't think anybody who's criticized him has really actually watched him play. I watched him against Nick Bosa and was like expecting him to honestly be a scrub because I hadn't really heard of him. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. He's actually holding up very well. So if he can be a solid pass protector for you, if you have good receivers, and I think last year showed this, if you have guys who can separate quickly and you can hit them on time, that compensates for a bad offensive line. And we've already seen what Alex Van Pelt can do, where he lost both of his tackles and was down to like 3rd and 4th stringers. He goes max protection, a lot of chips. Like I think the Browns were top 5 in their use of extra blockers. So, if Chooks does struggle or something like that, he can help out. Glover's the guy who gives you some versatility where he can maybe fill in at guard. They also have Nick Leverett, Michael Jordan, if those guys pan out. So, I mean, would you guys be okay if they're like, you know what, we're going to put off the offensive line till tomorrow and get some more developmental depth pieces instead of that future starter left tackle?
Here's the problem, right? And you guys, again, I'm going to defer to you in terms of the players that you've looked at and looked at the tape on, but your most draft analyst big boards now have the next best tackle kind of in that 50 to 60 range. Doesn't mean you're not taking them, but it means that you missed the opportunity to hopefully have one slide to you at a point where you could have traded into late first to get them or have them still sitting there on day 2. They went. And kind of now, this is the receiver sweet spot. So if you're taking a tackle here or you're fixated on tackle, it feels like trade back is the right play. Amass picks, and there are receivers that you're going to be able to get past this wave who can contribute, late second in the third round. And if you look at last year, how many hits there were in those first 3 rounds, I think that's a position you can comfortably go get it. But you're going to start getting into swing tackle mode or like kind of guard, kind of tackle hybrid situation here. And I don't know that you're going to get your true left tackle. And I feel like that is really just drafting based on need rather than the player if you go and get one right now. But maybe you guys feel differently about a particular person here.
Feels like what Taylor mentioned about
Yeah.
Okorafor, they have a lot more confidence in him at left tackle than most of us do. And I mean,
Mike,
if that's, go ahead.
I think I think there is something to what you said, but I also think there's that's all we have right now. So we're gonna let you know that we feel good about it because we're not sure that we can address it in the draft. And I think this is the thing when we looked at it. Yeah, you wanted the quarterback, you want the receiver, you want the tackle. Probably pie in the sky, right? Like the notion that you're going to nail all 3 of those guys, that you're going to nail an X that's going to play a ton for you, a left tackle, a starting left tackle that you're not going to get in the first round, and then your quarterback was probably a little, we're dreaming. You're hoping that Elliott Wolf's first ever draft is an absolute home run, and it probably, they probably understand too, like where they have some of their guys rated that. All right, we're in that territory now where this is a developmental player. And maybe somewhere down the road he becomes a viable tackle in this league. But the idea that maybe we're going to find that guy and be able to plug him in and play him right away is probably not. Again, if they go wide receiver here, it's probably not the likeliest thing to happen.
And John, I know you were talking about value and how like the tackles are more ranked in like the 40s, 50s, and all that. I'd also push back and say if you look at someone like Patrick Paul, who is athletic and has freaky traits, I don't really think there's such thing as reaching. If you're like, no, we have Bill.
There's not. This is analysts and draft picks.
Right. Oh, I know, but
these aren't real people. I'm just saying.
The argument would be that. Yeah. The argument would be like, oh, you could have gotten this guy in the 3rd round. And it's kind of like, probably not. This is a guy who like is so talented just physically. If you like your offensive line coach to bring out the best in him, it's not really reaching because it's a guy with a skill set that you're not
and a skill set.
Before
I was just going to say, like, but this just goes to show you, and you guys know this from having covered the draft and followed the draft. Like, draft boards are so wildly different from city to city, like, from team to team. Like, I had someone, like, legitimately, we've talked about Bub Means a lot, right? The wide receiver from Pittsburgh. I had someone tell me that on in their system that he is likely a 3rd, early 4th round pick.
I can see.
Then I've had other people tell me I'm not. He's a priority free agent. So it just, hey, this is the system we run. These are the traits we're looking for. He doesn't fit us at all. We wouldn't, we're not touching him. Or like, hey, we'll throw a dart at him if he's sitting around in free agency, and we'll do that. And others are like, no, we would prioritize this guy. And, depending on our needs and when we're on the board, like we could take him that early. So don't be surprised. And I think this is where we're at now. Like, first round, you do have first round's fair. Like, there's a general consensus on the first round. We generally get most of the names right. But then once you start moving on, it's really like, what's your flavor? What's your flavor of offensive linemen? What do like, what are we not thinking of when we're doing mock drafts and round 3? Like, that their left guard actually has bone on bone and nobody knows that. They know that. They think they can get one more year out of them, but they're going to draft that guard now. Like, and people are like, why would they draft that guard? Well, you'll know next year when that guy is on IR and you never see him play again, right? So
I was listening to a podcast the other day with Field Yates talking about like him and Mel putting together their draft boards for ESPN's coverage and how Mel told Field this was the first year he did his full thing. And Mel told him, just rank 200 players and cap it at that. Do not go beyond, because if someone goes at 134 that you had at 305, everyone's going to jump down your throat and say that your board is wrong and it sucks. When really, once you get past that first round, the blue chippers, the guys that are just best player available, you're a full player, I'll find a spot for you. It really does, like you said, Mike, turn into need where, some guys don't understand our guard depth as much as theirs, or this guy doesn't fit our offense and this guy completely does. Like it's so like, I guess, volatile in that after those, first couple blue chippers that it doesn't really matter right now. So nothing seems like a reach past, like, call it the middle of the second or third round.
Last one for me before I got ahead. Like the NFL security stuff, like team security, like the background information they do, that comes out in the last week or so, like the finalization of that. So like we may sit there and be like, this guy, and then somebody gets a report that says, well, like he tested positive for this, or like he hangs with this group, and you got to be like whatever.
I love those guys.
And there's stuff that we never ever find out.
Yeah,
They find out.
Is there anything that you can think of?
My favorite guys 10 years ago were the pot smokers, because they were like, they smoked pot. I'm like, good. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not the thing. It's not the red flag you think it is. Give me all the friggin' potheads,
I saw that video of Laramie Tunsil again with the gas mask, and I'm like,
that's crazy.
And he started there, and now every contract he's gotten, this dude is just getting the Brinks truck backed up.
Yeah, I was like, that's great. I was like,
that would elevate someone on a big board today.
Well, I was going to say, nowadays, I don't think anybody would care. Like nowadays, the gas mask thing, no one would care. If that's all he was doing, if they didn't have any, like he wasn't doing cocaine or something, like yeah, fine, whatever.
It's like, dude,
whatever.
Away at 420 when you're about to get tested, you're good. Just not for a week in your
I'm impressed he could put that together. Before Giardi goes, I want to warn you the perils of potentially taking defensive players in these two next rounds with the reaction last year in the third round. Here, let's go with this. Okay?
Let's go. Oh my God, my light fell. I got so excited. Wow, they're loading up on defense. That's huge. He was one of the most athletic players in this draft.
Can you pick a lane? We keep saying we want offense, and then you're getting freaked out every time they get a defense.
I'm sorry they got one of the best athletes at linebacker in the draft. I'm sorry that I'm excited about that. If they want to trade in the third round, they can.
Taylor, this is a fifth rounder. Like, again, you only had 3 picks in your first 2 days. You can't take a fifth rounder with one of them. You just can't. This is, we're due for one every draft, right?
I know you want me to have an answer.
We never know. We never know. We could all.
Yes, but we go on what
it's all based on a premise that we know we don't know. So we're not sitting here saying we're smarter than them. You're not going to draft 11 people. It's time to get aggressive. So get aggressive and address some of those other areas. That's what I don't get. Standing pat and not moving around and not doing.
He's like, I want to fight this guy.
I feel I'm echoing what a lot of people are thinking. We're not pretending we know what is really going on beyond the scenes.
That was glorious.
The worst part of that video is I don't have that tan anymore, if I'm being totally honest. It looks so damn good.
No, it's fine. I was also kind of Taylor. Right before that pick, we put up Taylor's like best available. There was 5 guys, and like most of them were offense, a lot of receivers, and we're like, that's great. And then he lets out this huge yes, knocks his headphones off. And I'm like, oh, they got one of them. And he goes, Marte Mapu. And I was like, what? I was like, we've never mentioned this guy.
He's shaking his head. Hey, he had a moment. He had a moment with Marte Mapu.
The best is like, yes, they're touching on defense. That's huge. And we're like, no, it's not.
No, we didn't want that.
And Mike's watching mom and dad fight. And it's like, oh
I literally emailed his school and was like, please give me film to watch on this guy, because they had him in for a 30 visit. And I was like, holy shit, who is this guy? And he was like popular at the Senior Bowl. I honestly think I was one of like 8 people who knew that he existed. Honestly, he was so under the radar. I think he was like a late edition of the Senior Bowl or something like that. Yeah. Like they barely knew that he was even available. So God, that was awful.
It's okay to be optimistic. It's okay.
I love
That's
it.
why we're here.
I love it.
It's fun.
It's
fun.
so good.
It's a season of hope and dreams.
Exactly.
Of my favorite moments, Taylor has a Hall of Fame moment right there with that, and Evan Lazar when they took Cole Strange, because Evan, would try to put a sunny side on things, and this is like months before he goes to work for the Patriots, and he's like, oh my God. He's like, oh my God. I don't know what they just, and he just melted down like that. Cole Strange broke Evan Lazar. That was it. That was the turning. Every young buck reporter who comes in excited about things has a breaking point. Cole Strange broke Lazar. Taylor's still going. Nothing's broken him yet. Nothing's going to break your stride.
I'm not always Mr. Sunshine, though. On the past pod, when Matt got drafted, I looked like someone literally like grabbed my soul and just yanked it to my chest. I was so upset. So, but God, these are so hard to watch back. Oh, never.
That's beautiful. Are you kidding me? Hey, guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Enjoy tonight.
We loved it. Thanks, buddy. Have a good draft. You're welcome anytime here, all right?
Appreciate you guys. See ya.
Yep. So Mike Giardi there. The Buffalo Bills are officially on the clock right now, so we're close, okay? And we're here talking about the Patriots draft. And just to let everybody know what we're going to do today, as we did yesterday, they're going to make their pick. We're going to hang for a little bit. We'll talk about it, analyze it. These guys got to go do reporting stuff. So they're going to go do their writing and do their whatever. But we are going to take a little break after that pick, jump back on in the tail end of the second round, and ride you all the way through pick number 3. Again, should there be a trade, we will hop in immediately and analyze it in real time on the fly as best we can, while it's happening. So we'll be on alert. There already is a stream set up, so you can already jump into it after this one for the third round pick. That's going to be the one we jump on next. If you subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications, you'll be notified right when we go live. But I mean, you're all watching the draft. You're doing what we're doing. When you want people to start talking about stuff, we'll be there for you. We promise that. So guys, we're here. Let's go with it. We went with 5, go with 1. Give me your one, the one guy, the one. You get one.
I'll go Patrick Paul.
AD Mitchell. I'll say AD Mitchell. I think it's okay to swing here.
And I think we both would prefer it after a trade down. Caveat.
Really?
Yeah, I would like to see them trade. Because, okay, so I understand. That's why I said if they love a guy, get him. But I also think there's good value. Like if they move back just like 5 picks, I think you still get a good player.
I believe the Bills just took Keon Coleman. So that may take him off. That obviously takes him off the board.
So I'm going to say my nightmare pick, even though it could be wrong, was the Keon Coleman, because I've got N'Keal Harry PTSD and I've heard some comps and I don't think they're necessarily fair.
Yeah,
and
that's
I think
confirmed, by the way. Coleman to the Bills.
Yeah,
Keon Coleman plays faster than that, but I don't want that. I do want to take the swing, and I think AD Mitchell's that guy. But honestly, I'll be happy with any number here. This is a heart versus mind thing, right? In my mind, I actually believe tackle is far more important to this team at this stage, particularly if May is going to play at any point in time. And the Patriots are officially on the clock with the 34th pick here. As we know, the Bills, well, technically the Bills are still on the clock, but for all intents and purposes, the Patriots are here ready to make a selection themselves. It makes more sense to build. Huh?
Go ahead. Sorry.
It makes more sense to build from the inside. Like your classic team rebuild, you got to get your quarterback and your tackles, and you got to make sure that they're protected. And then you start to add weapons. You can trade for them. You can, use high draft capital, and that's kind of where you start to target those things. But the kid in me really wants a receiver right now. It's so, but you know why? Because I keep getting denied it. And it's because I couldn't get it that I want it more. It's like the kid whose parents don't let them have sugar. You go to your friend's house and you just eat a bunch of crap because you don't get to eat it at home. I want sugar. I want the receiver. It's what I want to see happen. So I don't know, but wait a second. Someone said he thinks it's AD. Are we feeling good? Oh no, sorry.
I mean, I'm seeing that.
It is Keon, right?
For the Bills,
it is Keon. It is Keon.
100%. Okay.
Bills confirmed.
Okay, sorry.
Dude,
I think the what you were seeing, John, was them saying AD to the Patriots. Like they want.
I got that too. Yeah, I was scrolling backwards here.
That's around the clock.
So it does change things because, again, reading those tea leaves from Cameron Wolf, obviously, and then Phil Perry had something on Coleman too. So it feels like Coleman was the Patriots guy. That's the guy they were coveting at 34. Do they now make a call? Do they now trade back? Or do they stick and pick a wide receiver, or do they take a guy like Taylor's guy, Kingsley Suamataia? Do I have that right? So I'm okay with that. I still want a receiver, John. Like you said, we have been deprived of it. It's been the DeAndre Hopkins. John, logging back into the CLNS website the other day, I saw my draft I had the breaking DeAndre Hopkins news ready to go last year, and it obviously never happened, but I saw it in the draft, so I was like, wow, I got to delete that. That's too bad. But they've had these high hopes for wide receivers, and it just has never come through. So you want that guy. You want it to actually be there and happen, but I'm also comfortable. You got to fill wide receiver or tackle. We know that. Anything outside of that is a massive, massive disappointment.
Yeah. Now that they're actually on the clock, I want a receiver.
Yeah, isn't it? That's what happened, right? All day, every minute leading up to the draft, it was got to take a tackle, got to take a tackle, got to take a tackle, and then it's like, no, go get a receiver here. It's gonna make you feel good. Just do it. Just do it.
Every notification, my heart like skips a beat, and it's all about Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
Refresh. Somebody tweeted about the freaking Patriots. I wonder if they're kind of scrambling now because they couldn't get Keon Coleman.
That's what I'm thinking. Get on the horn, get on the trade back horn.
Yeah. Jeez, man. Everything's about Keon. Also, big thing with Keon is he's a really good character guy. That was a big part of it, where he's like got great energy, really good person, and which could tell us like maybe what they're looking for in this round still, where they do want those high character guys who are going to bring that kind of energy to the locker room.
Right.
Yeah. So we are waiting and we are refreshing, and no matter what, Taylor, I'm going to say I'll say this: it's okay to be excited. I don't want to take that away from you.
Unless it's Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, I'll muffle my excitement. I'll just go off camera. I'll do my little dance, and then I'll come back.
I don't know what I will do. I'll understand. It's just going to be really,
Mm-hmm.
I'll understand to an extent because it's a player a lot of people covet, and it is kind of one of those like, yeah, I was pretty set on receiver or tackle, but I really didn't expect that person to be there. So I'll understand the rationale. I won't like it. But yeah.
Mike Reese just tweeted some opinion / analysis.
The Patriots just traded the pick to the Chargers.
Nice. This is the way. Let's go.
They traded to the Chargers.
Yeah. What did they get back? I'm not going to tweet till I know what they got back, but
New England Patriots trade alert. They trade the pick. We'll get the details in a little bit. So again, here's why we talked about it earlier. And I know this will sound somewhat contradictory. Like you want to see them trade up, not down. But again, there is a world in which when you're looking at 5 players here, and like that are all the same to you and very, very, very close, it makes sense. And also, again, to be able to have that power to move around. And again, this is kind of where you might be able to get in 3 rounds.
We got a compensation update.
What do you got?
Says that the Patriots get picks 37 and 110. They give up 34 and 137. So they just moved back to move up later on. But now they're
up like 20 spots later.
Huh?
They move up like 20 spots later.
27 spots, yeah.
So what is it?
How far down did they go? Pick today?
No, they only have 2 picks today.
No, but does that trade up get them into the 3rd round?
I think that's a 4th. I think it's an early.
It is the 4th still. Okay, I'm bad at math.
So they're down in the 2nd. What is the compensation?
So they move down 3 slots right now, and they move up 27 slots later. So they move from 34 to 37, and then they move up from 137 to 110.
Wow. So now they pick 103 and 110. That's not bad.
Yeah. Oh, duh.
Well, how far down did they just go?
3 slots.
3 spots. Nothing big.
They only moved down 3 spots.
Yes. Yeah. So they'll be on the clock.
If you only move down 3 spots, anything you get in return is fine at this point. So you're adding a 4th rounder here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Patriots make a trade. We'll put up the details on the screen here in a little bit, but that's good. What do you guys think? Are you okay with it here?
100%. Coleman seemed like their guy. From all the intel we got over the last 3-4 hours, Keon Coleman seemed like their guy. He goes at 32. Patriots move back 3 spots because they don't like they're not fans of their pick of the litter at that point. You move back only 3 spots and you move up 27 later. I think that's a win if you're not sold on anybody at 30, 34 necessarily.
And you could flip one of those. You could flip one of those 4th round picks. And if you do like the tight ends, like you want to get a couple of those guys or defensive linemen at a better value or whatever, then you could get a bunch of like later round picks. And I know what we said about we can still get undrafted free agents, but if they're like, hey, there's guys deeper down the board that we like as well, let's just stock up. I don't think that's a bad move. And again, they're closer to the top 100, so they could just stay and take a guy who maybe slips.
Well, I mean, going back to your graphics, which I will show here as well. Let me see if I can find round 2 for Taylor. Oh, I don't have it anymore. I'll get it when it is, but there's quite a few players here. Oh, let me see. Is this one? Yeah, this is Taylor's picks. No, that was Giardi. Who's this one?
Chargers.
That was Kadlick.
So they
got McConkey.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
so
a good
here's
for Justin Herbert. Somebody can get open fast.
Yep.
I like McConkey a lot.
Mm-hmm. He's a good player.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. But again, Coleman is gone. You still have that defensive player who shall not be named. McConkey is gone. A.D. Mitchell is still there. What's up?
Also realize that with the 2-4s, the Patriots could also move back into the top 100.
That's kind of the thinking here. Is
yeah.
The force might get you another day 2 pick where you can move around there. So is it possible they get back into the 3rd? Yes. And again, this is where, is it possible you package a 4th and a 3rd to move up into the 2nd for a 2nd pick?
Right.
Absolutely. All of those things are possible at that point because, again, picking at that top of the round, that 3rd round pick is basically a late 2nd. It has tremendous value. So you can leap up there with just a little bit, as just happened here, moving up 3 spots, a few spots into that round if you want. And the lower you get, and again, if you look at those draft charts, you can move into late 2nd, by packaging something. So that is something that they could potentially do. And again, their draft board being the picks that they had being so vanilla, in terms of what they had, they really didn't have flexibility unless they made the move. Sure. So whether this is as much about the player or simply just creating opportunity, that's something that I'm guessing they felt they needed to do. And it might be, as Mike said, if Keon is their guy, and that's what people have been thinking this whole time, then perhaps this is really just about creating more flexibility later.
And to answer the question on screen, is Wolf negotiating the trades? I believe he is the point man in that regard. He is the final say guy.
There's no way Jonathan Kraft is negotiating a trade.
No, I don't think that's it. Like, is it Cameron Williams or something? But no, like Elliot Wolf has connections.
They're working together. Elliot's on the horn. Right. He's the point.
And like Elliot's been an assistant GM. Like that's a big part of this is you need those relationships when you're trying to like negotiate these trades because they're people that So that's did he work with Monty Austin for it? Like obviously it's not relevant here, but did they work together?
I'm sure. Maybe.
I feel like at the beginning of his time, it was one of like
So I'm reading in Taylor. I know you were before Reese had the Charger stuff. You were going to go into his little opinion tweet about the Patriots' needs, and people aren't going to like this. But Reese, and when he tends to give caveats in his tweet, whether it's hard reporting or something that he just thinks. And so he starts this off with opinion. Patriots' needs are obvious: offensive tackle, wide receiver. But if a defensive player with a higher grade is there, trusting the board should trump the offensive needs. If we're talking about a first-round prospect, some highly touted defensive tackles there to consider. So whether that's informed speculation, you wonder if they trade down and, like a guy like Johnny Newton, I'm thinking of the defensive tackles.
So this is once again where maybe this is the wrong approach and maybe this is an uninformed approach. But my philosophy on something like this is, again, maybe that's the right pick there, but recognizing your positional need every time you run into a scenario like that, I would be more inclined to keep moving back until you get to the spot where you can attack and get more of the things that you need instead of the higher player. And again, there's a breaking point on it. Like if you had a guy, as I said, I gave the caveat on DeJean.
if they literally had him as a top 12 overall player, it's really hard to pass there. Somebody you would have felt comfortable drafting there. But if he's 31 and your next best player is 45, but the one is in a place you really need something, there's where I want to kind of move and see if they move. So again, maybe it's not the right philosophy, but I mean, Mike, you seem to agree there. I do want to see them manipulate that board to attack needs within reason. You don't want to drop several tiers down your board to the next thing just to get the position. But I don't know. That's where we're at.
So the Falcons just traded in at pick 35. If you guys are seeing this, so you wonder where they go. I forget.
Well, hopefully another quarterback. That would be great. How about Spencer Rattler here? Would be a great
Spencer Rattler here. But you wonder if this is where they go for a defensive tackle. They could have been in the the defense.
They needed D bad.
They need defense, and they're a good team. Taylor, we talked about that today. I think this morning when we were talking about the Falcons taking Penix. Like they're a good roster, but they should attack the defense more so than the offense right now. Their offense seems relatively set. So Reese talking about those defensive tackles falling. This might be a spot for them to go pick one up.
Also, apparently, according to the draft value chart, the Patriots actually won the trade with the Chargers. I think that was pretty obvious when we looked at it, but it was the Patriots had 604 points and the Chargers had 597.5. If you're into that.
Wait, what was it? What's that? What are the numbers again?
The Patriots had 604 points for what they got. The Chargers had 597.5. It's not huge, but they did get better value.
Close.
It's not huge, but notable.
Those things, I think that's a tad overrated, only because one, it's hard to tell year to year how it's going to be.
It's just a language for them. It's something that everybody knows where you can be like, this is what, but then it gets into like quarterbacks where there's nuance to it, where it's like, no, point blank, that's what this is worth. But you're talking about someone who's going to completely change your franchise. I'm going to bend you over the barrel. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
I did.
All right, Falcons. Let's see.
The sound of silence.
It is interesting.
Oh yeah, so Rook Orahoro. Yeah, I don't know how to say his name, but the kid defensive
D lineman, and this is again where a lot of people felt the Falcons needed to go here, potentially edge, maybe even more so because their pass rush has been so bad. And again, why people were so shocked what they did at 8 yesterday with Michael Penix, which is still one of the more fun things, to talk about, that they did there. But that's going to put, up at 36. The Patriots are 37. Guys, would you be stunned to see them go down again? I wouldn't.
No, especially like with who's fallen. I don't really think they're guys who would have affected it based on what we know. So yeah,
I wouldn't be, and I'm okay with it. And I wonder if, like, okay, we sat here last year. We've sat here for years watching these drafts. When Belichick traded down, everyone was like, "Oh, the Patriots traded down again," and everyone was pissed. And I wonder if that was just a negative connotation around his, I guess, the way he ran his personnel, or like if Bill was the coach and GM right now, would we be saying, "Oh no, we're okay with the trade back," or we'd be like, "Just get the freaking guy, just take the freaking receiver, Bill, take AD Mitchell, you need AD," like, you know what I'm saying? Because we were so robbed of that in the past, like John said earlier, like. You need a wide receiver. Bill's waiting on a wide receiver. He doesn't.
But the problem was Bill was trading out of spots where receivers were like plentiful to places where he could comfortably draft the defensive guy he coveted all along. And this is the reverse, which is if you might be trading down into the sweet spot of receivers, thinking the next 3, 4, 5, 6 are all kind of in the same boat here while trying to amass draft capital along the way. So you're right. Yeah. When there's that one guy, it's like, and you would just keep seeing them. I mean, almost intentionally dodge receivers when everybody was just clamoring for them over and over and over again. And also not exercising opportunities to move up. I can't remember what it was, but maybe 3, 4 picks before we were gushing about Tank Dell, right? He went about 3 picks before Mapu, or 4, somewhere in range. That's the type of thing you want to see them move up for. Josh Downs was another one. A lot of different,
I
people
honestly
there
think
were
Josh
like,
Downs being off the board was a big reason that I was happy with Mapu, because I'm like, all right, if he's gone, get another guy who's really good. But if he was on the board, I can guarantee my reaction wouldn't have been the same, because
Well, he
Don't
went
give
in-
the excuses, Taylor. You would have forgot. Come on.
It's hindsight. It's hindsight. I'm learning. I'm growing.
No, it's
Hindsight's
not.
great.
You're excited and enthusiastic, and again, I never want you to change. But it was just, I was in no mood. I don't care who it was, like.
You guys remember the third day? We're like,
I was already here because Gonzalez made all the sense in the world, and it was an absolute need, but I still was like, all right, you gotta go. Right. You got to go the rest of the way here with the needs, the other ones, and then Keon White. I'm like, all right, you're really pushing it, guys. And when we got to Mapu, I broke. You could have been Santa Claus with a basket of gifts, and I would have tore your head off there. Like I was in no mood. That's the only way I could put it. I was in no mood. It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair.
It wasn't
fair.
Well, Taylor, you were just going to mention.
Pick is in for the Commanders. Okay. So the Patriots are, I believe, on the clock.
Yep.
Yep. Bingo. Mitchell's still there. Would you be surprised if Mitchell's one of those guys who slides
at this point? No,
another round.
No,
at this point,
I would.
And then you'll hear after the fact.
This round it worse.
But Taylor, remember last year with guys like Darnell Washington and DeJuan Jones, they just fell and fell and fell, and that surprised me. And John was drinking out of the mustard bottle.
I got guys on the Garden Report who cannot stand these water bottles, and they just let me have it every night. Funny. Blorp's not here tonight. He leads. The second I take a sip, Blorp gets on the chat. Stupid water bottle. What's wrong? What's wrong with this guy?
But so I think I learned last year that when guys fall out of a certain range, like AD Mitchell, seemingly, at least according to draft not experts, but the draft world, moved up into like those top 25 picks over the last month. The fact that he's now dropped 12 spots, could be more, tells me that he's going to even drop even further. So it's not going to end up surprising me. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Johnny Newton,
tackle.
It feels like a situation where the league knows more than we do, which was kind of like the DeJuan thing, which, I mean, that was, you could debate how legitimate those reasons were. But yeah, it's just he's so talented, and as a receiver, man, it's tough.
Yeah.
Jalen Polk.
They got him?
Jalen Polk, yeah. Wow, okay.
Is that what the Patriots did?
Yeah.
Where do you have
who
that?
Had him? Was that Giardi?
That was Albert Breer had it first.
No. Giardi had him on his board, right?
Oh yeah, he did, yeah.
All right, guys. Do you?
I like it.
Mean,
he's a
I'll tell you this.
player.
He wasn't on your boards.
Yeah,
I believe he's on my.
Guy, but I could also see with his consistency.
Did he make yours, Mike?
He's on my day 3 board, I think.
Let me see. Oh yeah, he's on my day 3 board.
Round 3, rather. Round 3. So a little bit of a reach. But again, they have intel on him because Tyler Hughes coached him at Washington last season. So that's a connection there too.
I hate that. I'll just tell you that right now. The
why?
Connections. This is how we ended up with Belichick's buddies and N'Keal Harry and things like that. I don't care who where. I just want you to get the best player.
Yeah.
So I don't care about those connections. I really don't. In the intel, that's what's led us down a really bad path. Do you like the player or no?
Yes, I do like the player. I have liked the player. Again, maybe not this high, but does a lot. Can play the X that we've talked about. Was one of 2,000-yard wide receivers with Michael Penix this season. I like him. Taylor, you can dive a little bit more in as far as like the film work, but he's a solid player. He helped Washington to make the national championship last year. Really good guy. Really good player, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm kind of like writing up my little tweet here. But yeah, I mean, he's tough. He's versatile. He can win downfield. He's not fast, but he's like kind of Jacoby Myers with more juice for me.
Okay. Do you not see him as much of an X receiver then?
I think he can play that. I don't think it's his best role, but I think he can definitely line up there. And I think he's going to contribute from day one.
Oh, for sure. He's a day one player.
Well, that's it. What else are you guys doing? You guys texting your friends, or you want to tell me a little bit more?
No, I'm literally just trying to get my thoughts out there, so I don't think I'm hiding or anything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to get
I just
right up on him.
Sorry, give me 2 seconds. So John, I have to kind of disagree on like having the intel on the player.
Okay, that's
fine.
fine.
No, I know. I'm just the reason that's why we're here. The reason why is like I get when there's the Saban connection with Bill, and there's the Saban connection with the Belichick connection with. We look back at. I want to see if Jalen Polk. No, we look back at the new N'Keal Harry thing, right? But Tyler Hughes was literally was he quality control or wide receivers coach Taylor at
quality control
Washington? But so he worked closely with those offensive players. So like they know what makes him tick. They know what kind of player he can be. So from an overarching, like not a positional, positional coach position, I think it's a little different than actually working with the guy on a day-to-day basis and knowing what he can bring to your offense. So trusting Tyler Hughes, his intel on the player, I'm okay with it, and I'm sure that that's what they did. Not that he made the pick, but I'm sure that he has.
Who's running the draft room, Kadlick?
Yeah, right. So I'm okay with it. Again, conviction on the player. That's cool with me. Again, maybe not if you could have got him at 34 or what have you, but.
And honestly, there's not a lot of real wide receiver 1 types in this range right now anyway. He's going to be a very good wide receiver 2, like at the very least. And honestly, I'm fine with that. Like there's other guys who are more explosive, but the point is he can win downfield. And I love his toughness. That was something that really stood out with these Washington guys. Also a very pro-ready offense where, again, I think that's going to help him in this process. His route running isn't great right now. Like it's not super nuanced. I think that's something you can obviously coach up. But if you're looking for like character, a reliable guy, like a safety blanket for your young quarterback, I think he does give you that. Again, he's
is that what we were looking for?
Kobe was still here, but also he happened to get a little bit faster. I don't think so.
Were we looking for character and poor route running, or were you looking for something a little bit different?
Oh, no, no. I think that it's not that he's a bad route runner. It's really just like kind of like Brian Thomas, where it's more what he was asked to do than what he can do. He's also versatile. We know that Alex Van Pelt's offense likes that. I mean, we can say it's too high, but a lot of people who watch a lot of Washington love Jalen Polk. Like he's one of their dudes. So I'm going to actually see where the Beast had him rated real quick. Yeah, the Beast had him as a 3rd round value. All right, might be a reach, but
they grabbed a wide receiver. That's good with me.
They did, but they also drafted Tyquan Thornton, and everybody was like, okay, it's a wide receiver. But again, look, it's okay to feel this way, right? Like everybody here you had your board, and this guy didn't make your board. You had 4 receivers on it. So there has to be a little bit of disappointment knowing that there are a few guys you might have had ranked ahead here that they passed on. And that's that. It doesn't mean nobody knows how this necessarily turns out to be, but some of the scouting reports, hands catcher, radius strength, 50-50 ball winner, a lot of stuff that Taylor said, body control, tracks the ball well, a lot of positive things, but he's a 4.5, he's a 4.5, 240 guy, 6'2", which is good. He's got a good frame. 6'2", 200, 210, 205. So again, kind of like a more of a bit of a big-bodied guy. How does he slot in here?
I have a spread on him if we want to pull it up, or maybe you can put it in the background.
How does he slot in your eyes right now, day one?
I think they probably will have him as their X receiver, to be honest. I think they're going to kind of move him around a little bit, but I think he could start from day one. Like, I think he's better than what you're going to get out of KJ Osborne right now, to be totally honest.
Yeah,
I agree. I think you need to play this guy, and you need to play this guy now, or get him, involved in the offense where he and Drake May can now grow together and learn this system together. not that you're going to not play him because he can practice with Drake May, right? But get him in the system, let him know it, let him get comfortable so that when Drake May ultimately starts to, become your starter, they already have, some sort of connection together.
They do. They do. I know we had some people here, and again, take it for what you will with the draft experts, third round grade, some people in the 40s, a few picks later. Ringer had him at 45. So again, range doesn't matter hugely here because, as we said, people's draft boards are vastly different. Patriots see something they like. We will see whether or not this ends up being the right thing. Down the line, you're not really going to get it. But again, drafting for positional need here, they got a guy they liked at that position. And again, it's interesting that if they didn't really like him, you're probably trading down again, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for whatever it is, that's where they are. And you really do start to get that feeling that, AD Mitchell, which is the guy everybody seems to kind of sort of want here, is obviously not someone that a bunch of teams are interested. Personally, I thought I agree with Mike's take that McConkey was a bit of a redundancy with what they have, but I think it was the overall more talented, higher ceiling potentially player that they could have taken here, and they opted to pass out of that. So I don't know what you guys think. Would you have preferred that? Even if it is redundant?
I think I would have I liked Jalen Polk over McConkey fit wise. And I know I had McConkey in my round 2 grade, so it's a little bit contradictory. Because if they took him, I'm okay with it. But honestly, it is revisionist history literally over the past 7 minutes. But once, when Jalen Polk actually gets here and you look at it, it's like, oh, okay, that actually makes some sense.
Also, we're going to pull it up, but a certain guest I had last week didn't even think that Polk was going to be around in the 3rd round. So we're going to flow to that, but
we are. And again, whether he is or he isn't, you're going to hear a lot of those, whatever. Again, doesn't matter. It either is a good pick or it's not. But for what it's worth, I think a lot of people had a lot of people higher on the board from what it was right now. We are going to hear from that certain someone in a little bit. And we'll kind of hang around a little bit as more picks go off the board, because I am curious where some of these other players that maybe you thought were targeted. And also you want to see, are those other tackles going to go there? I did see one place that has Polk as a player comp, Jacoby Myers.
Look at that.
Honestly, both of the Washington receivers who aren't Rome were getting Jacoby Myers comps. And again, we lamented all last season that Jacoby was gone because he was so reliable and so tough and set the standard in the locker room, which is another thing that Polk brings. And again, the one thing you ever complained about with Jacoby was that he wasn't very fast. Polk isn't like a burner, but you don't have to be a burner. He knows how to win downfield, did it a lot, and was the second leading receiver on Washington after Rome Odunze. That was one of the best offenses in the league, with the quarterback in Penix, who was one of the more aggressive deep ball throwers, and one of the only quarterbacks that had a higher average depth of target than Penix in this draft class was Drake May. So again, I think this is a good fit. And again, we talked about it. They could have traded back if they really didn't think he was a 2nd round value, and they didn't. So I think that tells you what their evaluation was. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were several other teams that thought similarly, or if the league was higher on him than we were.
Well, do you know someone who did think similarly, and that is Evan Lazar, former CLNS media over at Patriots.com, had Polk rated 24th overall, day 2. Complimentary playmaker, wide receiver 2 potential is what he said. Not flashiest receiver, does the little things well. Best trait is magnet hands at the catch point. Plays much bigger than his size. To climb the ladder, finish through contact. Strong mitts and good play strength throughout the route. Allow him to stack and finish on vertical routes or catch the ball in traffic, working over the middle of the field. Sneaky juice after the catch. Heap said some Kendrick Bourne in his game. So again, in the world where you have to live in, which is if they were 1st round talents, which some people think Mitchell is, they'd be taken in the 1st round. Your Taylor's expressions kill me because he gets excited about stuff that isn't at all germane to anything that we're talking about.
It has nothing to do with the Patriots, right?
ADHD. It's not
it
my
has nothing to do with New England, right?
But Drake May called him a stud and said, "Let's work." That's pretty cool.
Oh, okay. Where's that?
Okay.
Yeah, look at Taylor contributing.
What did you think? Drake May was going to be like, "I hate this loser," you know?
I mean, he didn't have to say anything. Sometimes that's the thing with players. If they say nothing,
are you getting an X in the second round? You're getting guys who do different things well. If the guy was running a 4.32 and had massive college production and a big frame and play on the outside, he's going in the first round. So obviously there's always something different, you know, but it's just, is there separation? Again, this is why you've got these N'Keal Harry vibes. N'Keal Harry was strong and supposed to be good, and
Stop,
I'm not comparing.
Don't do that because people are gonna associate them. Don't do that. Don't do that. Jacoby,
I know N'Keal Harry actually is who they thought. The Patriots thought N'Keal Harry was who Deebo Samuel ended up being. That's the funny thing, is a guy who could get the ball underneath and catch it and go and do things after that, you know, with the ball in his hands, and it wasn't at all. But you think Polk can get NFL separation?
Oh, absolutely. Like, again, I really think it's because Washington, they had a pretty simple offense in terms of what routes they asked their receivers to run because they were good at it. And Michael Penix Jr. was good at throwing deep. Like, that's a big thing about the scouting process is you can't always say, oh, can this guy do this? Did this guy do this? It's can he do it? And I think he showed enough flexibility that he can be a more nuanced route runner. He just has to learn, like, to use his head, how to do certain fake outs. Like, those are things some people kind of do that more instinctively, or they just learn earlier on. Some guys have to learn at a different time.
The only thing I worry about a little bit is you said it's you said that, you know, it's a little not a very complex offense at Washington, and I don't want to call Van Pelt's offense complex, but it's an NFL offense, so you need to do a little bit more than just
Washington had one of the most NFL type offenses.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Perfect.
It wasn't super gimmicky where it's like screen and like all this. They had some like college stuff where like they're splitting out like all the way outside. There was stuff that.
Yeah.
But, it was definitely one of the more NFL type offenses, which again, I think is going to help him acclimate way more quickly.
Again, look, I think we have to acknowledge that we are slaves to the kind of draft board to a degree in terms of perceived value and where people are ranked and where it is. So naturally there's a teeny bit of okay. Look, trying to talk yourself into this. It doesn't mean you're not going to be able to over times, but go ahead, Taylor.
So looking at Jalen Polk's route tree and the 4 routes that got him 100+ yards. First one was crossing routes. We know that we know Drake May loves throwing over the middle. Second was hitch routes. I think Drake throws hitch routes pretty well. Then out and ups and go routes. So those outside verticals. Again, so we're talking, that's Drake May's game. Like, I think he throws more posts, and that's where I'd like to see somebody with more speed, ideally, where like when he faces those quarters coverages and he can really take the top off. But this is a guy where if he gets one-on-one coverage, you throw it to him either over the middle or outside, and that's something I think the Patriots are really going to value.
As far as the perceived value that we discussed with getting Jalen Polk at pick number 37, and if they traded down from 34, do they really love the guy? And is it a reach? But we need a wide receiver, and we don't know where we like this guy. And especially passing up on a guy like A.D. Mitchell, who everyone had as a top 25 player. So to put that into some context and the way you can sort of think about it and like the Polk pick a little bit more. Really, I'm just talking Zannis off the ledge here, but
I'm not on a ledge. I want to hear the rest of your explanation.
Yeah. So
I'm not on a ledge. This sounds like a high floor, low ceiling guy, and you were hoping for something a little bit that where the champ could develop into a 1. I'd like to see it instead of like may become a solid 2 contributor. I feel like the Patriots have been mired in 2s and 3s for a really long time. And so I don't know what that does for you, because I think you've got mid. You kind of need to take a swing, and you need something on the outside and downfield, and you were hoping it was Thornton, and it isn't, and it wasn't. Who knows this year? But anyway, finish your thought.
No, so if hypothetically speaking, last night, say they traded up from 34 to 29, and then took Jalen Polk over A.D. Mitchell, it's like, what the bleep are you doing? A.D. Mitchell's falling a little bit because of X, Y, and Z. And then you take Jalen Polk. It's like, why the hell did you just pass up on AD Mitchell? But now in this context, oh, thanks, Zach. Yeah, there we go. See, it's a little late to be fair, 68 versus 37. But regardless, point being, sorry, let me get back on track. The fact that they, passed up on AD Mitchell now, I think it's more okay because there's clearly that general consensus that AD Mitchell wasn't the guy that all the mock drafters thought he was, and that there's some underlying medical thing here. So again, I'm more okay with them reaching for Polk at 37 under those circumstances than if the imaging was, the other way when they did it like that. And for some reason, we just lost Zannis, Taylor, and that's okay because we can pick it up and we can be happy about Jalen Polk and not have.
I honestly think this was a good pick. Like, obviously, you want
agree that it's a little bit. I'll take a little bit of a.
This is definitely one where you have to be like, you have to rationalize it with he was just higher on their board. But I also don't think, because I think he's a guy who can step in day one and be one of your more prominent contributors. I think that's really valuable. And yeah, you want a guy who maybe is more explosive and has more speed. Let me look at the guys that I had when I tweeted last night who I thought could maybe go closer to the second round, and I'll kind of do a little compare and contrast real quick.
While you're looking at that, you want to hear from Mina? You get Mina's take here? Yes. All right, here's Mina Kimes, one of the stream of outstanding guests that Taylor got on his podcast Patriots Daily, which if you don't subscribe, and you should, go find it. Audio version, of course, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, but also it's a video and it streams live all the time. And you might be seeing a little Mike Kadlick on there from time to time as well. So if you're interested in that, absolutely you should go, and you should subscribe to the YouTube channel in general for that, and a host of other CLNS pods. But among the people that Taylor got on the show was Mina Kimes from ESPN, who is, really knows her stuff and went in a little bit on Polk here. Here's what Mina had to say.
I mean, Polk will not be there in the third round. There's no chance.
Oh, nope, that's not.
I think Polk is going to go earlier than people expect because he is a quarterback's best friend. I know it's a cliche, but he really, it's the player he gets comped to a lot is a guy you guys know very well, and Jacoby Myers, for good reason. He catches literally everything thrown at him. Good frame, good route running ability, super smart, can win the line of scrimmage. I love him.
Well, there you go. And Mina's watching a lot of Washington football. She's from Washington, so that's someone whose opinion I'm trusting.
Quarterback's best friend is massive too. We talk about the security blanket, the guy that you can trust. You're muted, Zannis.
You're right. It is. It's like, but here's the thing. I remember a point in time, and this was a totally wrong take of mine, but it was more emotional than it was rational, which was I didn't want the Patriots to bring back Jacoby Myers because of the security blanket aspect. I was like, throw to someone else who can do something with the ball in their hands or stretch the field or stress a defense. And I felt like he became Mac's little juju safety valve where he's like, I'm afraid to look at anything else. I don't trust my arm to go downfield. Nobody's open anyway. I don't know if I trust my protection, but I'm just going to find Jacoby wherever he is and dump it off. And it was safe, and he compiled catches, and he was sure-handed, and he was reliable, and honestly, probably a lot better than he got credit for. But he was Jacoby Myers, and that's fine as your third receiver, who's out there. But when you're trying in today's NFL, your number two probably has to be better than Polk's ceiling. And without a number one, you bump everybody up a little bit, and you're asking them to be things that they're not necessarily. So, like, can Polk be in a wide receiver room? And look, he might be great. We don't know. We don't know for sure. But do you think he has the type of ceiling where he's a person who's like game planned for by other opposing defenses and things like that? Maybe. I'm asking to you guys.
How often do you get that guy in the second round, to be fair?
I mean, last year there was tons of them, and you're talking about Tank Dell in the third round, who was explosive. So yes, there are players. It's just you need a little juice. You need juice somewhere, and they're lacking it. And that's where that's the only thing. I think everybody in this world feels a little better if that 4.52 number was 4.39. And it would be like, all right. Even if he had the same exact type of profile. But separation, being able to run away from defenders, being able to stress defenses, just something they haven't done. So again, the quarterback's best friend is almost like a backhanded compliment because you get the feeling it's a safety valve sort of thing as opposed to
Travis Kelce's a quarterback's best friend. Like, I think it's a backhanded compliment if you don't understand the guy's game.
Again, it's simply
Randy Moss is a quarterback's best friend.
Hard to get. It's harder to get at this point in the draft, but we have seen players in other places in the last few years as receiver has really picked up in terms of, the positional importance and how much talent is flooding into the league on a yearly basis. You actually are getting really high-end players, albeit not your prototypical X. You're not getting the prototypical guy there. So you're always getting somebody who's he's a little bit shorter, and I don't know if I love this. And some say he might be a little more effective as a Z, or that's fine. You just want a little bit of juice, and I think the lack of juice here is the thing that's making it something that's hard for people to get super excited about. That's it. That's my.
We
take.
have an interesting quote.
I'm not on a ledge. I'm not on a ledge. Yeah.
An interesting quote from Cameron Williams, Patriots college scouting director. He was on Patriots Unfiltered a little while ago. After they picked Polk. What are you laughing at, Taylor?
My ADHD. I almost had an outburst. I stopped myself.
Okay. About Cooper DeJean going to Philly.
No, Mina quote tweeted my tweet from her video and said, Pats fans, you got a good one.
Oh, okay. We talked about earlier, Tyler Hughes having an influence on the pick of Jalen Polk, and Cameron Williams just talked about saying there was definitely a comfortability with Jalen given Tyler's experience. He's obviously spoke really highly of him, and that's where we felt comfortable with the person and the player. That's something that we fell in love with along with the tape, his mentality, his growth mindset, toughness, work ethic, types of things and discussions that Tyler added context to as well. So, and that's from Brian Hines, our friend over at the Pulpit. So he
Can you
grabbed
believe
that?
Did the Eagles just get DeJean? Did they just get two of the top corners in the draft by not doing anything?
Yeah, Quinton Mitchell and DeJean.
The guy must be literally in everybody's draft room, right? He's got to have a camera in every draft room.
Howie?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, no, we don't have to move. We're just going to wait. I'm going to get exactly the guy I want here.
Yep.
Kool-Aid off the board.
To who?
Let me see here. Kool-Aid.
Is it New Orleans?
Saints, yep. What a name. Kool-Aid. And there we go. Where are we right now, guys? Are we cooking?
42.
What number? 41? Yeah, 42.
42 now. Saints was 41.
Okay. At any point in time, if you guys feel compelled to, make a break for it, because you got to start doing journalistic things, we can explore that. And again, jump back on as we're going to do. There's a lot of people in here. I feel I hate to leave them hanging, but we are going to have to take a little break, guys, because we do have to kind of report and things. But go ahead. What were we going to say?
No, just that I'm sorry, I'm losing that. My light just went off, so sorry about that. We're basically waiting on PR to see when we're going to actually talk. Can you hear me? Sorry,
yeah.
I keep going in and out. Waiting on PR to hear from Jalen Polk, so we'll see about that and when that actually happens. But I guess, do we break? I mean, we got about 5,000 people in here, John. Do we want to keep chopping it up, or do we want to move on to our round three stream in a little while?
We can, but both of you guys have Polk at the top of the list. I'm a little worried to put it on there.
We got to get Amit back in the lab.
Amit, do we have the day 3 things? I'm only seeing day 2s. We can boot all of those. I need the day 3 picks. I'll put up Taylor's here as we talk about some of this stuff. And yeah, we do have a lot of people here, and we might need to hang for a little bit here because I do feel bad to leave you guys. I feel like we got something going here.
Anyway. So the Washington connection, Roger Rosengarten, 3rd round.
Did Mikey like Baker in the 2nd round too?
I didn't have Baker on my list.
No, Giardi. Sorry. Did Giardi like Baker?
Sorry. I don't know.
I don't remember. Do we still have it?
I believe so, right? Didn't Mike threw out Polk, and I think he threw out Baker, I believe. But here, anybody here go yet of these players?
No.
Other than Polk?
Only Polk.
Only Polk. So should we put up your fourth round wish list to figure out who the Patriots are going to take in 3?
Yeah, we'll just keep going around early. Our reach list. We'll just call them our reach list since we're the
That
Patriots.
was Mapu was Taylor's day 3 darling.
Right.
I remember that.
Loved him.
We also have it.
Live it down. It's too bad.
We also have it in print. You're like, 5th round. I love this guy, and then took him in the 3rd.
Oh yeah.
I was excited. I was a young man. I was just a boy.
So I do like Kieran here, Taylor. If he ends up there at 68. From Yale, tackle Kieran Amegaji.
Oh, Kieran Amegaji, yeah, that'd be another good one too.
Yeah. Rosengarten, it's the right tackle thing. Like I worry. And now I know that he was the blind side tackle for Penix, but it's still the right side of the line technique. So I prefer left tackle here because I think they like Big Mike at right. And what Giardi was saying earlier about Okorafor, like, yeah, he's their left tackle for now, and I'm sure they're comfortable with it for now, but they shouldn't just, bank on that either. What did he sign a 1-year deal?
Yeah, Okorafor's on that one.
Yeah, so like again, that's not they can't really be their long-term plan. A guy like Kieran Amegaji could be their long-term plan. And he can still be a swing tackle, and he can still sit there and develop around Chooks who was there for a season. So if we're talking right now, I'm going to say my number 1 target at pick 68 is Kieran Amegaji. Now that they hit on tackle. At wide receiver.
Roger Rosengarten.
Well, that's
you still want right tackle though, Taylor? You want right tackle?
He was only a right tackle because Penix was left-handed.
I know, but that's still
you
right-handed.
You should appreciate that, actually.
That's right-handed technique, though. Like
but any scouting report I've read says that he can go to left tackle.
Okay.
Yeah,
I agree with you. And he played left tackle before Washington as well, and then they moved him over there to be his blind side. I'll look it up and
see what his career splits were real quick.
Yeah,
so we actually have it in. Position pivot. Oh yeah, career. Oh yeah, so he was almost exclusively a right tackle in his college career. But I'll pull up a specific scouting report that said that he can play left tackle, so we have that on hand.
Looking at Peter Schrager, who one of the NFL insiders that I respect the most. Schrags is incredibly plugged in. Tweeted that the NFL has been higher on Polk this entire draft process. Patriots got themselves a good one. I had Polk going 1st round in my first mock last week. So
Taylor's learning and growing, baby.
Hey, Taylor, you had him in the 3rd round.
I did, and look, you know why? Because I'm not inside the league. But what did I say after? The league is
the Mapu propaganda.
You said it, but you're saying it all after. You didn't. Respectfully, you didn't nail this, and neither did I.
No, but I said afterwards that the league was probably higher on him.
After they took him.
I'm saying if the league was higher on him than we were outside, that's probably why he got picked there. And that's exactly what I said.
Me not knowing anywhere near as much as you guys do about this stuff, did I kind of low-key nail it? I'm just kidding. So again,
Zannis is all over it. Zannis has been on Jalen Polk from the start.
My do not draft list.
Yeah, but no, especially because what we heard from Cam Williams, like a lot of the time, it's the skill set is one thing. Like I'm thinking just based on skill, he's like a 3rd round guy. But in the league, it's all the intangible stuff that usually bumps you up to the 2nd round where it's like, yeah, he may not be the best athlete on our team, but he's going to get like 900, 1,000 yards every season. And he's going to be one of the guys that sets the tone for our entire team. So that's what I mean. Like, yeah, I had him as a 3rd round pick, but when this happens, you have to think, okay, is there something else that I didn't know where I could understand the league liking him more? And that's what Cam Williams said. So that's right. Yeah, no, I didn't think he was a 2nd round. You're talking about a 2nd round prospect. That's clearly what he was. And if Peter Schrager, who we both respect, says that,
yeah. And if you fine, then I'll take your dancing as a celebration instead of an I'm right, because it's a celebration.
No. I was celebrating my growth as an evaluator. That's all.
Okay.
Are you kidding? At this point, you absolutely want to see validation, right? I mean, and again, not to keep bringing it up, but I'm going to keep bringing it up probably forever. With Mapu, all of a sudden it was like searching. And then it was like, the Steelers were really high on him. The Steelers were high on him. They would have taken him in the 3rd validation. But Polk has enough fans here to not
Yeah.
feel like, and again, when we're talking reach, you might be talking baby reach here. Like we have seen what reaches are
Cole
with the
Strange.
Patriots.
Yeah, this is not
Jordan Richardson, Tavon Wilson. You have
Yeah.
seen Belichick pull people up that the entire room would go to their program and rifle through, and like, I didn't know that guy was alive. Okay, and they would take him in the second round, and then immediately every you know every know nothing or the majority of people who consume the draft, they go and they look for it and they're like, where was he, and you go down there, it's like, okay, he was the 204th ranked prospect and they just took him at 68 overall, and then everybody just and like they took him 70 spots ahead of consensus. That's a reach, like that's where
Tyquan Thornton was a bit of a reach, and now maybe it wasn't 70 spots, but that's kind of what we're talking here.
When it's one round, that's a little different. When it's like people have him as like a day 3 pick, and you pick him at the top of this day 2, that's like, all right, like that's, again, one round is like character, where if you're an outstanding member of the locker room, that'll get you a little bump. But like, yeah, multiple rounds is usually when you start going like, all right, this is a problem. Also, I have the evaluation on Roger Rosengarten. Want me to hear it? All right.
Yeah.
So according to Dane Brugler on The Beast, overall, Roger Rosengarten's pass protection won't win any beauty pageants, but his feet stay active and he trusts his handwork and eyes to execute his blocks. He projects as an immediate swing tackle for an offense with the potential to be a dependable starter if he continues to develop stylistically, similar to Garrett Bowles. And Garrett Bowles is like a staple in on the Broncos. So,
okay, so I'm putting up Taylor's picks here, and again, some guys we're talking about here as well, and there's some. There you go with your defense again, buddy. You're really pushing me.
I mean,
pushing me.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. Especially
I'm just messing around. I'm just
saying, like, if they trade back into the third, like we're talking about, and Austin Booker's there, I'm gonna look like a smart.
We all play our parts.
I also have a corner on my round 3 for what it's worth. I got Mike Sanders on mine. I love Mike Sanders. It's
equal opportunity bullying, please.
Here's the difference between
shit on me. Make Taylor feel better. Come on.
Yeah, make me feel better. Be mean to Mike.
No, I'm not being mean. Anyway, I again, but for perspective, for some of the people, with the PTSD, which I have severely when it comes to the Patriots and the draft, severe PTSD involving this. The difference between, like, I know there's a lot of, and again, I'm playing a little devil's advocate here, but it's really more for just some perspective. The difference mainly, I believe, with this pick and any others, one, it seems like a slight reach, not a massive multiple round.
Sorry to cut you off, man, but we have Jalen Polk coming up in a few minutes on you.
You do?
So, yeah.
Like how right now.
All right, you guys want to jump?
Yeah, so we're going to bounce.
You guys both jump. I'll wrap this up. I want to tell everybody here, again, you guys can boogie. Taylor and Mike, we will be back in not too long. Honestly, we're gonna jump on a new stream. So guys, jump back in with us, because this is an awesome crowd and you guys are great, and it's been a fun conversation and the chat is phenomenal. So we want to hang out with you guys. Major difference in my eyes between these two selections. If it was a Belichick selection versus this, I think you can feel 1,000,000% that Belichick had no feel for receivers, none. Whereas I do believe that we don't know whether Elliott Wolf does, and that's kind of part of the thing here. Is it's a leap of faith that this will be a good pick, that any pick will be a good pick, because we're in uncharted territory here. It's a person who kind of climbed 2 rungs of a ladder here, coming from scouting director to running the entire organization, and we believe is the one who's making the final picks here, albeit in a collaborative sort of way. But we don't know. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes here. What we do know is they traded back. They liked this player enough to stay where they were instead of continuing to trade back, which they easily could have done. So this is obviously someone they liked. You've seen Schrager. You saw Evan Lazar, 24 first-round pick. Other people there as well. You have the Washington intel. There's something they liked here with Polk. And they got him, and they targeted him, and they thought that they could get him where they got him, and they did. And so that's what we have here. But there is a clear difference, clear difference between, I believe, this and past receiver picks, because it is, again, really crystal clear that Bill Belichick, for all of the things that he did exceptionally well, had no feel for that position. As we said, we are going to be back in a little bit. Before we take off, want to give one more shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks, #1 DFS app in North America. All you have to do to play is download the app, and all you have to do to take advantage of our special offer that you can get here at CLNS is put in the promo code CLNS. You get up to $100 deposit match when you deposit $100 yourself. And that's all you have to do. Download the app. It's fun. How do you play? You pick players. Again, NBA playoffs, perfect time right now to get started with this. If you haven't already, you go in there, really cool app. You see the pictures of all of the players. It's very easy to use, very intuitive. Pick your players, pick a stat, click more or less, up to 6 players, watch 10 times your money roll in. Once again, promo code CLNS when you download the app. Prize Picks, #1 DFS app in North America. Once again, the Patriots have one more pick coming up in this round in day 3, but by benefit of their trade, which was 34 and 137 for 37 and 110, the Patriots have a couple of 4th rounders to play with. Could they trade back in and get multiple day 2 picks? It's possible. And that's something that we will watch. As we said, we'll be back. Let's say it's pick 45. My guess is around 55 to 60, somewhere in there. A few picks leading up into it. We're going to jump back on here and just hang through that 3rd pick, and then probably for a little bit longer, and see where the Patriots go there. Again, the Patriots pick at, I believe, where was it? I'm going to add it to the stage. 68 is the next pick. Yep, 68 with the picks here, 103 as well. We don't have 110 on there. It should be on there, but it's not on there. So they could potentially jump up there and get another additional day 2 pick. But right now it's at 68. So my guess is somewhere close to pick 60. We'll jump back on there near the end of the 2nd round, heading into the 3rd round. That way we'll be able to kind of track who's left. Who do you want? I know you'll be keeping an eye on it. So at that point, we'll have a better idea where we're at with things and who's left. Could be some players that were even in consideration. And again, this is what happens in these rounds in the 2nd and 3rd, round is the draft boards are all over the place. While Polk might have been someone that people had a teeny bit lower on their board, you may catch somebody here in the 3rd round that you might have thought, wow, I thought that's someone that potentially should have been a good bit higher than they were. So it's interesting. There's still a lot of names, even on their day 2 boards, of players who are still available, as we are now at pick 46. So 22 picks before the Patriots go. A lot of players are going to be gone by then, but there will be good players left. We will be back. There's a new stream. It's not this one, so go check it out on our channel. A new stream. It's already set up. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications if you can, and join us, please. Like we said, we had a ton of fun with you guys, and we want to ride it through that 3rd round. So we'll be back in just a little bit. Those guys are listening to Polk talking right now via video conference. We'll have some sound from him as well in our 3rd round stream. We'll hear from Polk himself, and we'll gather some more intel and see what other people are saying. But Patriots get their quarterback. They get a receiver. They still need some help on the O-line. Wouldn't be the worst thing as well to double dip with receiver here either, but I know a lot of people are kind of looking at tackle here. And it seems like this is a very clear strategy. It was going to be QB tackle receiver or QB receiver tackle. So I think that that's the direction that they're going to go. We'll see what's left when they get to 68. Again, thank you guys so much for hanging out. We'll be live during the 3rd round of the NFL draft. Like I said, coming up around pick 60, and we're going to hang through 68. Should the Patriots trade, we're going to hop on that same stream. It doesn't matter if it's back into the 2nd. We're hopping on that stream, and we're going to go live immediately if there's a trade notification. So you can jump on that one as well. Thank you, guys. We'll see you in a little bit, and we'll see what happens. Thanks.